At exactly 03:47 hours on March 5, 2026, the Arabian Sea off the Omani coast turned from gray calm into a digital killing field. The USS Thomas Hudner, an Arleigh-Burke-class guided missile destroyer screening the USS Gerald R forward carrier strike group, was slicing through 12-foot swells at 28 knots when its SPY-6V1 radar suddenly painted 47 unidentified surface contacts, closing at 22 knots. On the destroyer's Combat Information Center screens, the contacts registered as ordinary crude oil tankers, AIS broadcasting civilian codes, no military emissions. But the P-8A Poseidon, orbiting 180 miles north at 30,000 feet, had already dropped a grid of AN/SSQ-101 sonobuoys. The acoustic data told a different story: faint pump jet cavitation and container lid hydraulics. These were not merchants. This was Iran's shadow fleet, 8 15,000-ton tankers from the Dark Fleet Registry, each belly packed with Club K container launchers, Lancet 3M suicide drones, and the new Merman BN electronic warfare core powered by a radioisotope generator. Tehran's last card to break the U.S. blockade of the Strait of Hormuz and keep oil flowing to China. The trap was sprung. At 03:48:12, container roofs on the lead tanker Ocean Guardian hissed open. 48 Shade-136 kamikaze drones and 8 P-270 Moskit anti-ship missiles roared skyward in a coordinated saturation wave. At the same time, the Iranian EW suite activated at full power, a multi-band barrage that flooded the Link 16 network with ghost tracks, and GPS denied white noise across a 45-kilometer radius. The Ford CIC erupted in red alerts. Vampire, vampire, vampire. Multiple sea skimmers inbound. The Aegis Baseline 10 combat system on the Hudner instantly shifted to automatic. SM-6 and ESSM missiles rippled from the VLS cells in white-orange streaks. Phalanx CIWS Gatling guns spun up, spitting 4,500 rounds per minute. But the Iranian jammers turned half the fire control solutions into static. 3 Moskit missiles slipped the outer screen. At the same moment, 120 miles away, the Iranian Kilo-class submarine Tarek, lurking at 180 meters using the surface chaos as acoustic cover, opened torpedo tubes 1 and 4. The life-or-death gamble had begun. The next 11 minutes would decide whether the world's most powerful carrier strike group survived its first true multi-domain test of 2026. This was no random ambush. Over the previous 72 hours, Iranian intelligence, reportedly fed Russian satellite data, had tracked the Ford Group's exact route. The Shadow Fleet was the bait. The real plan: force the U.S. escorts to burn through their missile inventory, blind their radars, then let the Kilo deliver the killing blow from below, while shore-based Fateh 110 hypersonics rained down from Bandar Abbas. Tehran believed the U.S. would never risk sinking oil-laden tankers and triggering a global environmental and economic catastrophe. They were wrong. On the USS Gerald R. Ford, the captain ordered weapons free, all sectors. 2 EA-18G Growlers already airborne on Capi screamed in at Mach 0.95, next-generation jammer pods blazing. Instead of point defense jamming, they unleashed a high-power microwave, HPM sweep, that fried the guidance circuits of every Lancet drone in a 30-kilometer bubble. The suicide swarm fell into the sea like burning confetti. Simultaneously, the P-8A Poseidon descended to 1,000 feet and began laying active sonobuoy barriers. The acoustic signature of the Tarek submarine, once the quietest in the Gulf, now rang like a church bell. But the surface fight was far from over. At 03:51 hours, the lead Iranian tanker Ocean Guardian revealed its true teeth. 2 hidden 533mm torpedo tubes fired straight at the Hudner. The destroyer heeled hard to port, countermeasures blooming, but one torpedo clipped the starboard quarter, flooding a machinery space. The situation turned critical. The Ford was now less than 40 nautical miles from the Iranian coastal missile umbrella. If the carrier group was forced to turn south, the entire Hormuz blockade would collapse. That was when the invisible player struck. Beneath 400 meters of thermocline, the USS Indiana, Virginia-class Block 5 fast attack submarine, had been trailing the Shadow Fleet for 6 hours in absolute silence, Its AN/BQQ-10 sonar and photonic mast had already mapped every Iranian hull. The captain received the flash traffic from the Ford. Execute surgical disablement. Do not sink. At 03:53:47, the Indiana fired a single MK48 ADCAP Mod 7 torpedo, not at the hull. The guidance solution was set for an offset point exactly 12 meters beneath the Ocean Guardian's propeller shaft. The torpedo ran at 55 knots, went active at 2,000 yards, and detonated. The cavitation bubble collapsed with the force of a 2,000-pound hydraulic hammer. The shockwave sheared the hardened steel shaft, jammed the rudder, and sent a pressure pulse through the entire 15,000-ton vessel that knocked every electronic rack offline. The Club K launchers went dark. The Merman BNEW core suffered a catastrophic power surge. Its radioisotope generator safeties tripped, and the billion-dollar system fried without a single scratch on the hull. The Shadow Fleet was paralyzed. The remaining Iranian tankers tried to scatter, but the Ford's air wing was already overhead. 4 F-35C Lightning IIs dropped from 35,000 feet in stealth mode. Each released an AGM-158CLR ASM that used its electro-optical seeker and AI autonomy to thread between the drifting tankers and strike only the exposed EW antennas and container roofs. No secondary explosions, no oil spill, surgical. At 03:58 hours, the Iranian Kilo submarine, realizing its surface shield was gone, attempted an emergency deep dive. The Indiana's sonar operators were waiting. 2 more MK48s were in the water. This time, warning shots that detonated at safe distance, creating 240 decibel pressure waves that shattered the Kilo's passive sonar arrays and forced the Iranian captain to blow ballast and surface in humiliation. The entire engagement lasted 11 minutes and 14 seconds. By 0400, the Shadow Fleet lay dead in the water, 7 tankers drifting, 1 crippled command ship under tow by USRHIBs. The French pilots rescued. No. This time, it was 23 Iranian sailors pulled from the sea by U.S. Navy Seahawk helicopters. The Tarik submarine was boarded by VBSS teams after surfacing. Its logs and acoustic signature now belong to the U.S. Navy. The Ford Group resumed station. The Strait of Hormuz remained closed to Iranian military traffic. But this was no glorious victory. U.S. electronic intelligence aircraft picked up an encrypted burst from the escaped Iranian Kilo before it went deep. Coordinates and acoustic profiles of the Ford's exact formation, transmitted toward a Chinese listening post in the Indian Ocean. Russian satellites had already relayed the entire battle to Tehran and Moscow. The oceans are no longer safe. The Shadow Fleet doctrine has been exposed, but Iran still possesses hypersonic missiles, a surviving submarine fleet, and allies willing to feed it targeting data. Next time, the container lids may open on something far deadlier, and the next torpedo may not be surgical. The U.S. Navy held the line today, but the specter of total war still lurks beneath the waves of the Arabian Sea, waiting for the next shadow ship to test the red line. What about you? Do you think the U.S. should have sunk every vessel and ended the Iranian Navy for good? Or was this surgical strike the only way to avoid World War III? Drop your analysis in the comments. If this breakdown of the most terrifying naval ambush of 2026 left you stunned, smash that like button and subscribe. Because the next file we unlock could be the one that decides the future of the Strait of Hormuz. Stay frosty. The sea never sleeps,